Once you have collected and summarized your data, you will need to summarize the data and results for presentation to your readers. Data summaries may take three forms: text, as in the written results part of your lab report, tables, and figures. Tables present lists of numbers or text in columns, and each column has a title or label. Do not use a table when you wish to show a trend or a pattern of relationship between sets of values. These are better presented in a figure. Figures are visual presentations of results, including graphs, diagrams, photos, drawings, schematics, maps, etc. Graphs are a type of figure that show trends or patterns in data, and they are the most common type of figure, so they will be discussed in detail in the following slides. There is one thing in common among these figures and tables. Each is numbered and has a clear and complete legend or caption, which is an essential part of displaying information. Any table or figure you present must be sufficiently clear, well labeled, and described by its legend to be understood by your intended audience without reading the results section. In other words, it must be able to stand alone and be interpretable. Overly complicated figures or tables may be difficult to understand, so strive for simplicity whenever possible. A clear and complete legend, sometimes called a caption, is essential. Like the title of the paper itself, each legend should convey as much information as possible about what the table or figure tells the reader. What results are being shown in the graphs, including the summary statistics plotted? The organism studied in the experiment, if applicable. Context for the results, the treatment applied of the relationship displayed, the location of the study, only if a field experiment, specific explanatory information needed to interpret the results shown, culture parameters or conditions if applicable, temperature, media, etc., sample sizes and statistical test summaries as they apply. Do not simply restate the axis labels with a verses written in between. Another important detail is the placement of legend. Where exactly do you place it? Table legends go above the body of the table and are left justified, since tables are read from top down. Figure legends go below the graph, since graphs and other types of figures are usually read from the bottom up. This table shows the typical layout of a table in three sections demarcated by lines. Tables are most easily constructed using your word processor's table function. Grid lines or boxes, commonly invoked by word processors, are helpful for setting cell and column alignments, but should be eliminated from the printed version. Every table has a legend. Remember that table legends are placed above the table. Also notice that every table has a number. Notice the presence of a period after table number. Column titles, table body, which includes the data, and lines, which demarcate the different part of the table. The details of a figure depends on the type of figure. Regardless of the type of figure, every figure has a descriptive legend that is placed at the bottom of the figure. Graphs are the most common type, so they are emphasized in the following slides. Graphs are figures that show trends or patterns of relationships, and graphs are the most common types of figures. There are many different types of graphs, but bar graphs and line graphs are two common types. Regardless of the type of graph you are making, you always need to be aware of your variables. Remember, the independent variable in this is plotted on the x-axis. The dependent variable in this is plotted on the y-axis. In our example, the number of bees depends on the type of flower. Number of bees is the dependent variable, so it will be plotted on the y-axis. So which type of graph do you use to display your data? Bar graphs are used when you wish to compare the value of a single variable, usually a summary value such as a mean, among several groups. In our example, a bar graph is appropriate to show the mean number of bee visits to flower pot treatment. Line graphs plot a series of related values that depict our change in y, the dependent variable, as a function of x, the dependent variable. In our example, we plotted the number of bee visits over time. Another example might be a growth curve for an individual population over time. One final point. Notice the absence of color in the graphs. Color is not necessary, and it becomes a problem when printing, and is distracting and takes away from the data. Keep graphs simple. Black or white, or shades of gray are preferred. Review X and Y axis. Axes labels. Each axis should have a label telling what information is on it. If an axis includes the results of a measurement, be sure to include the units you use for your measures. In this example, we have a line graph. Since we expect a change in our dependent variable, the average number of bees as a function of the independent variable, time. Notice that there are some similarities with the bar graph in the previous example. Both axes are labeled and the units of each axis are at regular intervals. But we've also included a key to symbols, which helps readers identify the different lines in the graph. Once you've completed your analysis and decided how best to present the data, think about how you will arrange the analysis tables and figures. Your analysis should tell a story, which leads the reader through the steps needed to logically answer the questions you post in your introduction. The order in which you present your results can be as important in convincing your readers as what you actually say in the text. How to number tables and figures. Figures and tables are numbered independently in the sequence in which you refer to them in the text, starting with Figure 1 and Table 1. If, in revision, you change the presentation sequence of the figures and tables, you must renumber them to reflect the new sequence. Avoid sentences that give no information other than directing the reader to the figure or table. For example, Table 1 shows the average number of bees over time. Every figure and table included in the paper must be referred to from the text. Use sentences that draw the reader's attention to the relationship or trend you wish to highlight, referring to the appropriate figure or table only parenthetically. Abbreviation of the word figure. When referring to a figure in the text, the word figure is abbreviated as FIG, while table is not abbreviated. Both words are spelled out completely in descriptive legends.